Hey guys, what's going on? Chad here from Shifting Lanes. Today, we're taking the good, the bad, the ugly of the Ford EcoSport. There's no mistake, guys. Crossovers are coming and they're replacing more and more cars every day. Ford, in fact, is getting rid of pretty much all of their cars in favor of crossovers. No car, or crossover I guess, exemplifies that more than the 2018 Ford EcoSport. It is a compact or even a subcompact crossover. It's small, it's got a small engine, it's meant to be good on gas, it's meant for being good in tight spaces, getting you around town, all of that fun stuff. So we're going to take a look at the good, the bad, and the ugly as best we can, and we start with the good. And for that, we got to go inside. So the interior, much like the compact cars this thing is based on, it's actually a pretty nice place to be. It's very simple, but not overly simple, if that makes any sense. So like your seats, they actually look really good, even though they're not leather. They're really comfortable. They're actually very supportive. I kind of dig the orange striping on it if it's not a little bit ridiculous for a vehicle of this type. The center console, again, so much is just simple. It's where you would expect it to be. Same applies for the buttons. Too much today, cars either go with haptic feedback, touchscreen, or everything to run it. What's missing in a lot of modern cars are simple, easy to use buttons. So you want to get your AC rolling, buttons are easy to touch. You want to get to the nav, really simple. The nav screen is actually really good. It's simple, it's easy to see, it's actually very well thought out, and that is Microsoft's sync with Ford. And you can do Android Auto on there. I personally do not like Android Auto. The stock system is fine. The only thing I can find fault is just kind of floating here. I'm not a big fan of that style, but to each their own. The steering wheel, again, buttons are all where you'd expect them to be. They're big enough. They're easy to touch. The only thing on this car that, like, maybe if you're wearing gloves or something like that, that's kind of dainty and easy, is the little switch right here. That's for your rear windshield wiper, and it is so small and doesn't really fit in with the rest of everything. Moving around back, let's face it, this thing's based on a compact car, so things aren't incredibly spacious. This way, to get anything of any size back here, you have to fold the rear seats down. Unfortunately, they don't fold all the way flat, but again, we're not talking about the most utilitarian vehicle in the world. We're just talking about something with more utility than just your average sedan. And the trunk isn't half bad either, so we're gonna get this crap out of here and show you what we got. Unlike a lot of crossovers, hatchbacks, or what have you, the EcoSport doesn't open vertically, it opens horizontally. The rear trunk area is actually not bad. You can fit easily a bunch of groceries in here, a bunch of stuff if you have kids. Probably should limit it to 2 with this being so small, but anyway, plenty of room. Folds out for more hidden storage, and then all your stuff. Just a compressor and all of that. But overall, the interior is actually really nice. I really dig this interior on a vehicle of this type. It's very good. And cost-wise, this thing starts at about $26,000. With options like the one we have, you're getting closer to $30,000. It's a pretty good interior for $30,000. To get to the next thing that's good about this car, you actually have to drive it. I know. I was surprised too. So it is at this point you might be asking yourself, why is the EcoSport, why is the driving experience a good thing about it? Well, believe it or not, it's actually a pretty fun car. It's got McPherson struts up front. It's got a multi-gas strut system in the back. Springs to go along with it. It handles pretty well, and when you combine that with the advanced track system in here that actually controls not only what wheel gets power, remember it's an all-wheel drive system, what wheel gets power, what wheel gets braking, and all of that. It also has an advanced function. Given that this is a crossover, given that it's a little tall and a little goofy, actually has an anti-roll feature. Now, when I first read that, my initial instinct was, why does it have to use computers? Shouldn't they have just engineered the center of gravity lower? And then as I started driving this car, it kind of actually started to make sense. Now, for those of you wondering, and specifically the folks at Ford who lent me the EcoSport for the week, I haven't even come close to even thinking about getting into a situation where this car might possibly roll. It's just nice to know that it's there. You can drive a little bit more spiritedly. You can have a little bit of fun in this car. And it's got room for stuff. And it's got room for people. It's actually, I mean, okay, so it's not exactly my particular brand of vodka. But if I was in a situation where I needed a car like this, say I lived in a more urban area, say I needed the space, say I wanted the comfort of sitting up high and all that, I wouldn't be completely crushed. My soul would still be intact a little bit, just because I could have a little bit of fun. Another really good thing about this car, I said it before, it's the interior, but specifically it's the seats. They're really comfortable and not unsupportive. They're actually pretty good. They're really comfortable. I can see myself taking this thing on long trips, not getting a backache, none of that stuff. It's actually a really comfortable car, and I wasn't really expecting that. I was expecting, when I heard Sport Tune suspension, McPherson struts, all of that, that this thing would have a bouncy, jarring ride. And it just doesn't. It actually rides really smoothly. It's really good over bumps. It's really good over rough terrain. Okay, so it's not gonna win any rock crawling contests, but it's still really comfortable. Combine that with the great seats, combine that with the great infotainment system, and it makes for a really good place to be when you're just driving around. The 2-liter Duratec 4-cylinder. It makes 160-ish horsepower. It's good for 2,000 pounds worth of towing, but it is not nearly powerful enough. This car weighs a decent amount, especially with all-wheel drive, and the engine's not powerful enough to get out of its own way. I mean, okay, in a car like this, you don't need to be setting blistering quarter miles, getting to 60 really fast, but you do want a little bit of power just for everyday driving, pulling out in front of someone, getting onto the road, merging onto an on-ramp, all of that. And unfortunately, it's just not enough in this car. I don't mean to sound like that petrol head who's constantly prattling on about power and how every car should be more powerful. However, this car, an extra 20 horsepower would not go unnoticed. And you'd be willing to forgive the lack of power if the EcoSport was economical, if it was good on gas. This thing struggles to make 30 miles per gallon on the highway. I mean, you combine that with the lack of power, the lack of oomph, and I don't know, it just, yes, the optional engine is a 1-liter 3-cylinder turbocharged engine, which everybody seems to love. It is a little less powerful, but at the end it'll be a little bit more economical. How economical? Tough to say, because this is a bigger car for its size, because obviously the all-wheel drive system and other things that go into making a car into a crossover. But I don't know, you know, it's tough to get your head around the idea of a car that has EcoSport in the title and the engine isn't sporty or economical. And now we move on to the last part, and that is the ugly. We have to go back outside for that. So I'll see you there. It is literally ugly. Now, from this angle in the front, it actually doesn't look half bad. It kind of looks like somebody took a Fiesta and had it mate with an Edge. It looks kind of mean, it looks kind of aggressive, as much as a vehicle of this type can with that. But nothing seems out of place. It looks a little taller than it should, because we're so used to cars of this size being a certain hood level. However, I like the grille, I like the headlights, everything is good. It's pretty much the same story out back. It's a little taller than you would expect, but it still looks pretty good, especially considering other cars in this class. Everything's where it should be. Again, nothing's crazy, nothing's trying too hard. It's just there, it is what it is, and it actually looks really good for it. I actually like how they've integrated the door handle for the rear hatch into the chrome. You can see it's kind of the same thing over here. Neat little touch that I kind of like. From the front and from the back, this thing looks pretty good. However, that all changes if you look at it from literally any other angle. You see what I mean? It starts to go real sideways real quick here. And it all, to me, is wheel to quarter panel, or whatever you want to call it, ratio. These wheels are just way too small for the rest of the car. It just looks goofy as hell. And then you just kind of keep going. And again, it doesn't match up. It just looks like it's raised. Now it is, and there's obvious benefits to that. However, looking at this thing from side profile just really doesn't do it for me. And it is probably the biggest thing that lets this car down. And that's it, guys. That is the good, the bad, and the ugly for the 2018 Ford EcoSport. This thing actually has a lot of good qualities about it. It handles pretty well. It's actually pretty fun. Huge surprise for me. It's actually got some pep to it. Well, when I say pep, I mean you can drive spiritedly. When I first got this car, I was kind of dreading it because it's not exactly my cup of tea. It's, for lack of a better way of putting it, either a family car or someone who just needs a car to get them from point A to point B, and maybe every so often carry some stuff. It's actually a fun little car, and if you're in the market for a small, not so eco crossover, it's definitely something you should check out. Yes, it doesn't have the most powerful engine in the world. Yes, it feels ridiculously slow, and turns out it's not exactly all that economical. However, it is fun to drive. It is nice to sit in. It has really good tech. I'd absolutely recommend this to someone who's looking for this type of vehicle because it is spectacularly easy to park. It's easy to get in and out of. It's comfortable. That's what most people are looking for in a car, not necessarily lunatics like me who put horsepower figures, G-forces, and all that stuff ahead of anything else. And that's it, guys. That is the good, the bad, the ugly of the 2018 Ford EcoSport. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and while you're there, give us a great thumbs up and consider subscribing. All that stuff helps us make more videos, including our builds and review videos like this, not to mention a few special events we got planned coming up this summer. As always, you can find me on Twitter at Chenedy83. Same applies to Instagram. Shifting Lanes at Shifting Lanes, all across the social media platforms. If you're interested in some merch, hit up our Teespring account. We got some great stuff there. The Dad Wagon, all your Shifting Lanes gear. Check it out. Every single one of those dollars goes into our project cars and helps us out there. And that's it, guys. 2018 Ford EcoSport. Better than you think. I'll catch you next time.